This lesson is on literal equations. So we're going to start on the first flap. What is a literal equation? A literal equation, by definition, is an equation with two or more variables. Okay? So to solve a literal equation,
Mr. McNeil is here in the building.
Sorry about that. So to solve a literal equation for one of the variables, we're going to use inverse operations, just like we do when we solve any typical equation. Okay? So then we know that our inverse operations, if there's addition, the inverse is subtraction. If it's multiplication, the inverse is division. Okay? If it's something is squared or square, then the inverse of squaring something is square rooting it. Okay? All right, so then let's start solving one-step equations. So typically, we know that we can recall, that's just, remembering, that if we had x plus 7 equaled negative 12, the inverse would be to get rid of this right here, so subtracting 7. So x equals negative 19. Or if I had a subtraction, I would add 9 to get rid of it. Y then would be equal to 43. But what I want is, in a literal equation, I have two or more variables, okay? So here I have 3 different variables. If I'm solving for A, I want A all by itself, okay? Well, what's with A? A plus B. All I need to do to get rid of a plus B is the same thing, inverse operations. I'm going to subtract B from both sides. So then I have left on the left side A, because B minus B is nothing, equals, well, what was already here, C, and then I have a subtract B. I cannot combine those those terms, because they're not like. So I just leave it like that. That is my final answer. If I'm solving in number 2 for D, I have a negative E or a minus E here, so I'm going to add E to both sides of the equation. So I'm left with D equals, I have F and plus E. Can't combine them, so that's my answer. As simple as that. So let's continue to look with some multiplication and division. Here I know I can recall I'm inverse of multiplications dividing. So I have x equals 5. And then same thing here. If I'm solving for r, everything here, 2 is being multiplied times pi and is being multiplied times r. So all I need to do to get rid of those things is inverse operation, divide by what's with r, 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi. Okay? So now what's left? Over here, 2 pi canceled out. So I'm left with r equals, and can I divide that? Do I know what that looks like? I don't have any numbers. That's the purpose of a literal equation. So we have c divided by 2 pi. And that's your answer. It's okay to leave it like that. So if I have division, inverse is multiply, as we know. So I have y equals negative 32. So if I'm solving for m, I have to get rid of this divided by v, so multiply by v. So I then have m equals V times D, or D times V, or just dV, or VD. It's all the same. It's still being multiplied. Order doesn't matter there. Okay? So then we're going to look at two-step equations. So there's two different things that are going to be happening here. I need to solve for W. Now it'll be helpful to recall and remember that I have a best friend and an associate. If I am W, then my best friend is 2, so I can't get rid of that one first. I have to get rid of my associate, this plus 2L, or this positive 2L. So to get rid of that positive 2L, I'm going to subtract 2L from both sides. Okay? So I have left 2W equals P minus 2L. Can't combine them, they're not like terms. Last step is to get rid of my best friend if I'm trying to be all alone. Divide by 2. I'm left with W equals P minus 2L over 2. Final answer. Solving for B, I'm going to have to do two things here. Okay? I have 1/2 being multiplied. If I'm multiplying by 1/2, it also means I'm dividing by 2. That's the same exact thing, because this 1 times B is B divided by 2 or over 2 if I was writing them as a fraction. So I'm going to get rid of this 1/2 part by multiplying by 2, both sides. Or you could divide by 1/2, but that's the same thing as multiplying by 2, because it's keep, change, flip. So that's all the same. Okay? So I have, then I canceled this piece out, and I have 2 times A, or 2A, and I'm left with equals BH. To solve for the B, I'm going to divide by the H. So 2A over H is equal to B. Final answer. And then number 7, I'm solving for the L, probably representing the length. Okay? So the first thing that we need to do is see who is the best friend. Okay? Now, I have this pi and this r. All of these things seem to be being multiplied. That's going to be a stronger connection than this plus pi r squared. So that's going to be my associate. So I'm going to subtract the pi r squared from both sides. Okay. I have pi rl is equal to s minus pi r squared. And the last step is to divide by whatever's with my L, which is pi r. It's okay to do those two things together because it's the same operation. Divide by pi times r. Okay, so we have this is canceled. I'm left with L equals S minus pi r squared divided by pi times r. That is your final answer. All right, number 8. We're solving for W. There's going to be a couple of things going on here. Now, I have a subtract 10e and a divided by m. Typically, my go-to says that division or multiplication are the best friend components of your equations, except in a situation like this. I can't get to this negative 10e or subtract 10e without touching or getting rid of first this divided by m. So that's the associate in this situation. So I'm going to multiply by m. That's the first inverse operation. So I have w minus 10e equals ms or sm, because they're being multiplied so they can sit side by side. Now, to solve for w, I'm having to get rid of this minus 10e, so I'm just going to add 10e to both sides of the equation. So I'm left with w, which is exactly what I wanted, and I have sm plus 10e. And that's your final answer. And that is the lesson for literal equations. Okay, this foldable is going to go at the top of that page, and at the bottom is where you will fold your practice page, this page right here. It's going to get folded and glued. Just glue one side down so that you're able still to open it.